Right, today we're talking about tyres because over the last few years, tyres have got wider, especially on road bikes, and I am truly astonished at how roadies, even the most dyed-in-the-wool roadies, have embraced wide tyres. And there are some people who still claim that a 23 is all you need, but generally wider is better. But how wide is better? These are the brand new Pirelli 40mm wide tyres. Are these better than a 30 or are they too wide? Today we are going to find out. And no, this video is not sponsored by Pirelli, that's the other channel. This one isn't sponsored by them at all. So I have no bias on the outcome of today's video. I'm genuinely excited and interested to see what difference a wide tyre makes and to try and be as helpful to you as possible. So tyre width, really interesting topic. Wider tyres give more comfort, more traction when riding in the rain and through mud. And there are studies that show the rolling resistance of a wide tyre at low pressure is better than a narrow tyre when the road surface is rough. Because the tyre acts as suspension on your road bike, the only suspension on a road bike, and suspension on cars and motorbikes helps those vehicles travel faster over rough terrain. Even an F1 car has suspension. And there's loads of science out there about the rolling resistance, the energy loss, the vibration damping. I'll link to some studies down below. Definitely some good reading material down there if you want it. But in this video, let's not get bogged down in all that science and geek out too much. Let's keep it fun and keep it simple.
And the aim for this video is to do a simple ride comparison test between a 30mm and a 40mm wide tyre and see what the real world difference really is in terms of speed, rolling resistance, power requirement, grip, comfort and ride quality.
So it stands to reason that a wider tyre is better, right? Well, I don't know. The leap from 23 to 28 seemed massive at the time, and go from 28 or 30 to 40 seems an even bigger leap. And while wider is generally better, there is a limit to how wide you can go. And I have experience here in the mountain bike world, because a few years ago, mountain bike tyres were getting wider and wider, went to 2.6, 2.8 and even 3 inch. There were benefits, but also downsides. And so after that sort of experiment, the tyre width came back down to a more reasonable 2.6, 2.4 or 2.3, and now generally has stabilized at about 2.4 as a sweet spot for the trail XC bikes I ride. Which shows there is a limit to how wide you can go, and that while wider is generally better, it doesn't mean that going to a massive width tyre is always the best option to go for. So these join the existing range of P Zero race tyres, which start at 26 and go all the way to 40 now via 28 and 30 and 32, so plenty of options. And the tyre has the same 120 TPI construction, the same tread compound, the same tread pattern, the same bead design, so pretty much the same tyre but just supersized. And that leads to one downside to the tyres: they're not lightweight. They're pretty heavy. These are 462 grams on my scales, so a lot heavier than a 28 or a 30, which is obvious. It's also worth adding, this isn't the only fat, slick tyre you can buy. There are other options on the market, but not many. The biggest competitor for me is the Renhurst Barlow Pass, which measures 38mm width, which I've ridden in the past on my Fairlight. And that's also lighter when you choose the extra light casing, so that has the benefit of lower weight compared to these, which are quite chunky compared to the tyres we're all used to. And there are slick gravel tyres from Pano Racer, Schwalbe and WTB, which could fall into this category as well. Because when you get to the point of 40mm wide tyres, you might be running them on an endurance bike, but equally on a gravel bike. And you might find you want the width, the volume, the low rolling resistance, but also a bit of shoulder tread, like the excellent Schwalbe G1. I've ridden that on the Grail in a 40mm width, and it's pretty quick. So maybe in a future video, I'll do a comparison between that tyre and a tyre to see whether this tyre is actually much faster, or that Schwalbe performs just as well as this one and has the benefit of a bit more rugged durability for gravel. Now, you can't have wide tyres without a bike that has space for wide tyres. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. Don't know what came first, wide tyres or bikes with wide clearance. Probably a bit of both. But wide tyres are definitely being embraced by the manufacturers of bikes, and even race bikes now, like a Tarmac, take up to 32, and the MV Melee is a race bike that goes up to 35. And all the good endurance bikes and all road bikes launched in the past 12 months now take up to 40mm wide tyres, and gravel bikes are up to 50 and beyond. And I'm using for this video the 51 Seeker, my long-term road bike, because it's a road bike with space for 40mm wide tyres, perfect for this comparison. And for tyre pressure, I use the SRAM app as well. I'll put links down below to get the perfect tyre pressure. So let's do some comparison testing. I'll get changed and you'll join me out on the road, and we'll start with the 30mm wide tyres and set a benchmark time with these first. And the aim on my 11km test track is to ride at the same speed, the same average speed, and see what the average power is for each set of tyres, using the same power meter pedals for each run. Right, testing done, but before I head back to the studio and share the results, let me share some observations on the ride quality difference. And here I must admit some bias, because I've been riding 28 and 30mm wide tyres for the last 12 months, 18 months, so I'm used to how that tyre feels. And the first lap on a 30mm wide tyre felt normal. And that's a tyre that feels fast, nice and speedy, responsive, agile, just feels really good, feels really nice, feels fast, especially on the bike. And switching to the 40mm wide tyres, the difference was quite interesting, quite stark, especially in the first mile, the first 2 miles of the lap. Yes, it felt smoother, definitely more isolation from the bumps in the road, sort of plusher experience, but also felt harder to maintain the speed I was aiming for, and definitely felt like I was putting more effort in to keep the bike going at the speed 30 to 32 kilometers per hour I was aiming for around the lap. But coming down the twisty bit with the potholes and the puddles, the bigger tyre definitely felt more sure-footed and gave me more confidence to carry speed through that section. So as I expected, as I'm sure you did as well, there are pros and cons. Yes, smoother, more sure-footed and planted, but doesn't feel as fast, as speedy as a narrow tyres.
Some of that perceived extra drag could come from the impact a wider tyre has on aerodynamics at higher speeds, given narrower is more aero and therefore faster. So pushing a 10mm wider front tyre through the air is definitely going to have an impact on your performance. There's also the tyre and rim interaction as well. And while the wheels do have a nice 25mm internal width, the tyre do resemble a light bulb, which is likely to impact the aero performance of the tyre and rim as a system. And also, subjectively, the new Pirelli tyres don't feel as supple as the Renhurst Barlow Pass tyres when ridden on the same roads. Those Renhurst tyres feel like, and I know it sounds cheesy, riding on a magic carpet, and by comparison, the Pirellis feel a bit hard and don't conform to road surface quite as nicely. But the Renhurst tyres are eye-wateringly expensive, more fragile, puncture prone, and a bugger to install tubeless thanks to very loose beads. By contrast, the Pirelli tyres installed with zero drama using just a normal track pump and how tubeless should be. So a really interesting comparison between the two width tyres, but more riding has to be done on the 40mm wide tyres to form a better and more in-depth and conclusive verdict on whether wider is really better. But they do appear to be an exciting choice for endurance and all-road bikes where comfort and traction are a big focus.
But let's head back to the studio and dive into the data and see what the results actually are. Right, let's crunch some data, look at some numbers and see which is faster. And to recap the course, the route is 11.36 kilometers long, and the time on both bikes was the same, 21 minutes and 45 seconds at the same average speed, a shade over 31 kilometers per hour. But the power difference was quite interesting. So for the 30mm wide tyre, 205 watts average power, and for the 40mm wide tyres, 217 watts. So a difference, it comes down to 12 watts between 30 and 40 mil wide tyres. So that's quite a lot. That's definitely a big difference, but quite a big, more subjective ride quality difference in how they feel and ride based on the first ride. And it is just that, a first ride. So over the coming weeks and months of winter, I'll keep riding the tyres and give you a long-term update in the new year. So will my impression of them change based on riding them for several weeks and months, or will I go back to 30 mil wide tyres? Right now, I'm leaning towards a 30 mil wide tyre being my preferred setup. It feels fast. The data shows it's fast and requires less power anyway to ride at the same speed, and does feel nicer, but feels more familiar. These definitely don't feel familiar at all and feel a bit slow and lethargic in places, but there are benefits in terms of comfort and like extra confidence from the bigger contact patch when pummeling through broken country lanes with gravel and mud and pothole trying to take you off your bike.
The main takeaway from this experiment, for me, as simple as it is that wider isn't always faster or better. There does appear to be a limit to the gains from going wider, and 40 might be that limit. So if you care at all about riding fast and how much your bike weighs, then it appears a 28 or 30 mil wide tyre is probably the best choice for you right now. But if you don't care about speed and you value comfort and control, then the 40 mil wide tyres might be a good option for you, if your bike has space for them, which right now is the latest crop of endurance bikes, and you see the best ones listed in the video above, and gravel bikes, where these can make a good second set of tyres on spare wheels to turn the off-road bike into a road bike.
So yeah, very interesting. Let me know your thoughts on this comparison and the tyres. Are they on your radar? Love to hear your thoughts as always. But yeah, stay tuned for an update on the tyres very soon by hitting that subscribe button on screen right now, just there somewhere. I'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.